Monday before the event. The event was on a Wednesday, and Monday we hit it really hard. And even the week before, it looked like a severe weather day, but that's not unusual. We have severe weather days here in April and May. That's what happens here. But I think we were about 48 hours out, 2 or 3 days out, when we started seeing just everything lining up. You go through school, you go through training, and in everybody's mind is a parameter checklist. I think every meteorologist is different because in different parts of the country, different severe weather parameters are more important. But we started seeing just screaming wind fields, difluence aloft, convergence at the surface, extreme instability values, no cap. The timing was working out to where the big event looked like it would be afternoon and evening. So, yeah, we started raising the flags. And when you start raising the flags, that's when you start talking about violent long track tornadoes. And you've got to be in a position to hear warnings. And so that was about 2 days out.
Okay. And so the morning round of tornadoes, there were, several dozen tornadoes. I think there was five fatalities even. From your perspective, how did that, was that worse than you expected? And how did that affect the afternoon round, maybe even psychologically?
Yeah, well, understand, I didn't expect that to happen. I honestly did not expect to have that type of event in the morning. And we had loss of life. If that was it, if that was the only event of the day, that would have been a big red letter day here. We had multiple tornadoes. We had very, very significant straight line wind event damage with bow echoes. And, it was like a punch in the gut. I mean, I got out of that room we had a little break around mid to late morning, and I got out and just had a chance to breathe. I looked at Jason, who was doing it with me, and he looked at me, and it was just like we were both punched in the gut. But we had all kind of infrastructure problems. All these engineers just started streaming into the studio, telling us what was not working. We had microwave paths down. We had internet outages. We had cameras down. And finally, I told those guys, just stop. Let's take a different approach here. Tell me what is working, because the worst of this thing is yet to come. And the one thing we had to fight off during the middle of the day, the sun broke out, and people thought, well, it's over. They missed the timing. It was a morning thing, and it's all over. Everything is fine. And we had to message it as strongly as we could message it, that it's not over. The worst is yet to come. And but those engineers did a really good job of getting critical cameras and some of the communications infrastructure back online for the big part of the day, which was the afternoon and evening.
Okay. And so maybe whenever you had that in between break, was there a time where you realized that this could be a pretty historic day, like to the level that it was?
Yeah, we knew going in the day before. All the parameters are in place, and still, you never know how many high risk busts have we seen over the years, and this could always be one. But everything was in place for just violent long track tornadoes. And so we were trying to message that, and the morning event didn't really change anything. And what it did, it laid down some boundaries. Anytime you got morning convection, you'll have small scale boundaries like miniature cold fronts that are down, and that can enhance low level convergence and maybe give you a clue as to where the tornado formation would be or the thunderstorm formation would be later in the day. But no, we were still going just full on. And when I tell the younger folks in this business that the first storm of the day will talk to you. It's going to tell you a story. And the first storm that formed that afternoon was one that was near Cullman, Alabama. It was near Smith Lake. And it went from a little harmless rain shower to producing an EF4 tornado literally within 15 to 18 minutes. And that storm was talking to us, and it was telling us what was going to happen for the rest of the day and the night. It was like a harbinger. And that was rough. That one itself killed a family of five in a small town called Ruth, the Hallmark family. There was a kindergarten girl named Ari Hallmark, and she was home with her parents, two grandparents, and a cousin. They were all killed except for Ari. She was lofted, and somehow she survived. But that's what it means to me. It's the people impact. That's all that matters. It's the loss of life. I've memorized almost every single name. 251 names, 252 deaths. One death was an unborn child that did not have a name yet, but It motivates me greatly to be sure that we're better the next time it happens. But that first storm of the day was just violent, and it did indeed tell the story.
Yeah, it's amazing. So is there a maybe a particular moment or a specific tornado in your memory that stands out to you as especially memorable, impactful?
Well, we had 62 that day, 62 in the state, and you know, a lot of people say, well, it was the day of the Tuscaloosa tornado. But what about the other 61? It's like so many of these tornadoes that affected rural areas got no attention. And I don't play that game. I'm from a very rural part of this state. And if you live out in the country, your life is just as important as somebody that lives in a city. So I'm really big into being sure people understand. We had 62 tornadoes that day, 62 different stories. And of course, within each story, there were multiple sub stories. But I think on the air, the one that was a bit of a challenge was the one that came through Tuscaloosa. And these were a little unusual. Typically, our tornadoes here, they're not sexy like the ones in Oklahoma. They're rain wrapped. They happen at night. We have HP supercells. But this one was very visible, and we had it on a camera. And one of our guys got it on camera way before getting into Tuscaloosa. And understand in 2011, getting good bandwidth out in the country was pretty tough to do, but he did that. And after warning for 15, 20, 30 minutes, just warning, strongest language I've got without scaring people. And you can't scare people, but use very, very, very strong language. You just run out of words to say, and you just kind of let the thing go. And I'm thinking, if people have not done anything now, I cannot help them. And I remember saying, I don't remember saying it at the time, but I obviously did because I watched the replay. But I said, all you can do is pray for those people. All you can do is pray for those people. And I think that was a moment where I knew this would be a day of historic proportion. And that same tornado came right through the Birmingham metro. That's a pretty nasty corridor here. Tuscaloosa first, then Birmingham, two big population centers. And we had, of course, horrific loss of life in both cities. But the thing about it, I was so busy. I was so busy during this thing. I didn't have time to think about the historic proportion of it, or, I was just trying to tell a coherent story because you've got chat sessions with 4 different National Weather Service offices. You've got probably 6 station video streams in the field. Then you've got about 10 streams from volunteers in the field. And then you got social media. It wasn't as big in 2011 as it is now, but all this traffic is coming in. And you got people talking in your ear from the news department. And I missed it. I missed the history of the day when I was working it because I was so busy. And it really didn't dawn on me until the next day what kind of a day it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that moment with the big wedge in Tuscaloosa coming in, that's that may be one of the most iconic moments of your long career. It's that that certainly stands out from that whole event. Um so whenever you look back at that moment, you mentioned you don't have time to think about the historicity of it and the grand scale impact. So is it pretty much just a instinct reaction moment, or are you able to kind of process through all the moving pieces and the the complexity of that moment?
Well, it's just like baseball. I love baseball. Most people don't like baseball. I love baseball. We raise boys. I like to coach baseball. And one of the things you teach baseball players, you train and you train and you train and you train. During the game, you don't have time to think. All you can do is react. You don't have time to think. You have to know in advance exactly what you're going to do under each circumstance. You don't think about it. You just react to it. And that's pretty much the way it is when you're working a major tornado event like that. You just don't have time to think. You react, whether it's a radar signature, whether it's a report from the field, whether it's a stream from the field. Again, you're processing volumes and volumes and volumes of data sets. And you've got to be sure that you're telling a coherent story with the proper urgency. And obviously what we did didn't work well. Like I say, it was our worst day. Imagine you being, the guy that's been on the air longer than anybody else. You're the weather guy, and 252 people die in one day. A lot of people don't know how to carry that burden, and I don't play mental gymnastics with it, but I didn't talk about it for 6 months. And I think that we need to also focus on mental health of weather professionals that work these type of events. This can really, really, really affect your mental health. And by seeking professional help, that's not a sign of weakness, that's a sign of strength. And I look back on it and I did not. And that was a sign of weakness. I should have, because for 6 months, I refused to talk about it. I had nothing to say. We had the National Weather Service or National Weather Association annual meeting in my market here in Birmingham that year. And everybody expects me to speak at the NWA meeting. I'm the guy that talks loud and waves my arm and, says crazy things. I didn't say a word. I had nothing to say, didn't want to. So I had to go through 6 months of grieving. These were my people that died. And you go through anger and depression and survivor's guilt and a lot of things. But then you get out of it and you want to fix it. And that's where I've been since then. And what we've learned is the fact that what we do is not enough. The only thing I know is physical science. That's it. My first major in college was electrical engineering. I was 18 hours away from graduating, but I loved weather. And the chance opened when Mississippi State started that geoscience program. So change majors finished in that. But I've never taken a single class in human behavior, and I've never taken a single class in social science. So here we are asking people to radically modify their behavior, modify in a radical way what they're doing on a busy day, on a Monday, a school day, a work day. And we know nothing about that. And really and truly, I know nothing about messaging. I'm not taking a class and being some, guy on TV talking about tornadoes. And so the social scientists have really stepped in to help us. They have just been great. People like Kim Cloko McLean and Laura Myers. I don't want to start calling names because I'll leave too many people out, but I've learned so much and I think we're better now, but we still got to get better. There's still just a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Well, when you look back on that day, I'm sure that there's you could write multiple books about everything that went on. Uh, is there something or a particular moment overall, whether it was leaving the studio after the day, is there something that sticks out, the most in your memory?
Well, again, the day of, no, I was too busy. And listen, when the event is over, you're not done. The next day, you're doing live shots and you're writing all this stuff, and it's just like absolute chaos. And I didn't have time to really think about the day until maybe 3 or 4 days later. And it was probably, in the days following that. And understand, this is a very tornado-prone part of the country. Getting severe weather here, this is nothing unusual. It's the magnitude and the number of tornadoes we had that day that made it stand out. But I guess it dawned on me when I started to look. The names started to come out. The names of those that died. You look at 31 Beverly Heights in Tuscaloosa, and as an older child, I grew up there. I'm originally from Greenville, Alabama, which is a small town in South Alabama, but I moved to Tuscaloosa as an older child out of some family problems, and I started to think about Lauren Brown and Danielle Downs and Will Stevens. These were college students, and they were high school friends. They sheltered together. And what's interesting, they all went to different colleges. Will went to Stillman. Danielle was at the University of Alabama. Lauren was at Shelton State. But they wanted to shelter together. And all three of those kids lost their life. And that's when it hit me, is when I started to realize the faces and the names. And the damage was horrific, absolutely horrific. You've seen, probably tornado damage, but until you see it with your eyes and you start to understand the lives that are lost, it really starts to change you. Bessie Brewster, this retired nurse in Pratt City, which is a part of the city of Birmingham, who everybody said she had the best smile in the neighborhood. Al and Angie Sanders, they lived in Shoal Creek Valley. And again, people that are watching this don't know where these places are, but man, I do. And they were home with their three daughters, and they were killed, and the daughters survived. And that's when it started to hit me. You started to I can close my eyes. I can see their faces. I know their names. And that process started, about 5-6 days after the event itself.
Okay. And so you said that there was about a 6-month period after this where you, uncharacteristically didn't really have much to say. Do you remember specifically what kind of realizations came to you during that time?
Yeah, listen, grieving is a process. And um, I am so blessed in my family. I've not had sudden, unexpected loss of life. Now, my father did abandon me when I was 7, which was basically that type of thing. He just walked out one night, never came back. But still, it's not like somebody in your immediate family dying unexpectedly. And I've really never experienced that before, and I've never had to grieve like that before. And it sounds corny to some people. You didn't know these people. Well, they're my people. I was born here. I will die here. I'll be buried here. I worked a few years in Dallas. I was on Channel 4 News, Dallas Fort Worth, back in the '80s. But my wife and I knew that we wanted to come back, and my it's my watch. I'm here to take care of them. And when something like that happens, it is a tremendous failure. And so I needed the time to grieve, and I know nothing about grieving. I know nothing really. At the time, I knew nothing about behavioral health, mental health. And that's something we all need to understand. Every single family watching this show, they're affected by mental health. If you peel back a layer or two, they might not want to talk about it, but they are. But I needed to go through just some anger. I was mad at me, and I was mad at God. I'm a Christian. And I went through depression, and that is so unlike me. If you know me, I'm the most positive, energetic person you will ever meet. I love to encourage people. I love to use words that build others up, and that's very anomalous for me, is to be down and depressed. But I had to go through that phase, and so and during that time, and I did school programs. I'm in a school every day. I was in one today at Whitesboro Elementary School, the whole school in the gym. I'll have one tomorrow in Aliceville, Alabama. And I still did the school programs, but I didn't speak to adult groups, and I sure didn't speak about April 27th, 2011. I did not know what to say, which is so unusual for me because I'm a bag of hot air. You light me up and I'll go. You come to these weather conferences and I'm always talking about something, but it was almost like 6 months kind of a quiet time for me. And we all need a quiet time sometimes to grieve. And and at first I wanted to blame me. I wanted to play the blame game. I killed those people. That's the first reaction I had. I killed those people because I did not do my job. I look back on it, and the warnings were darn good. In some cases, you had 40, 45 minutes. That's ridiculous in terms of lead time. That's incredible. And quite frankly, a first grader could have issued those warnings. This was easy. The radar signatures were so simple. You could see these things. It was so easy. But I still wanted to blame myself because obviously I didn't do something right. But during that 6 months, I realized that's not the right attitude. That's not proper, and that's not good for me, and it's not good for anybody. I didn't kill those people. I'm part of a process, and what we have to do is look back on it and learn from what went wrong and find out what went wrong, and let's get back to work. And when I'm at it, I'm at it. I'm not good at anything I do, but I'll work harder than anybody else to accomplish a goal. And so coming out of that 6 months, my challenge to the social science folks, I want to know why every one of them died, every single one. Why did they die? And what can you tell me about fixing the problem? And again, we've come a long way. We still got a lot of work to do. In fact, our biggest challenge now is mobile homes, and that's a topic for another day. But we're much better now than we used to be. I'll put it that way.
That's good. Yeah. So a couple more questions, maybe. On a meteorological level, is there a particular tornado from that super outbreak that is most unique or stands out for some reason?
Well, I think it would be Phil Campbell Hackleburg. This was an EF5. We had three EF5s during that event on that one day. Imagine having three EF5s in one day. The reason for that, for me personally, in the '74 super outbreak, again, I was a kid. I was a high school senior. I had a ham radio license. And back in '74, there were no cell phones. There was a desperate, desperate need for communicators, people that had gear that could come in and establish a communication link in these hard hit areas. One of the first places I was dispatched to was Ewan, which is a small town in Marion County, Alabama. That tornado, I thought the world was ending. I literally thought the world was ending. I love storms. I love tornadoes. I wanted them. I didn't think much about the negative side of them, but it scared me to death. It scared me to death. And Hackleburg is just right up the road from Ewan, literally right up the road, Hackleburg and Phil Campbell. And that EF5 produced very similar damage to the '74 Ewan tornado. So for me personally, that one really stands out. And that one we did not have on camera. We've got some, footage that folks took on their phone, but we didn't have it live. But the signature was just, you knew it was horrible. You knew that it was horrible. And today, if you go to Hackleburg or Phil Campbell, Alabama, you know what they look like? El Paso, Texas. There are no trees. The landscape radically changed, which is the same thing that happened to Ewan 51 years ago, and Ewan still looks different. So, out of the 62, I think that's the most memorable one and probably the most violent one in the state. And I understand I don't like playing the, you know, which one was the most violent, but in my mind, that one really does stand out. It was Hackleburg and Phil Campbell. It was, you had good, well built homes taken off the slab, nothing left on the slab, nothing. And they were well constructed, well engineered with good anchor bolts. Some homes just sit on a slab with gravity, but these were well done. And you knew right away coming in looking at that, this was a five. And they just don't happen that often.
Yeah, I've always heard that Hackleburg and then the one in Smithville, Mississippi, that one too, those are up there. People, talk about those as some of the most powerful that we've ever seen. So let me just ask you one more question. You've been doing this for how long? 40, 50 years?
47,
Okay.
47.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you keep doing it longer. I mean, I think a lot of people would have maybe wanted to retire, but I know that's not your style. Uh, so what comes to mind when you think about the legacy that you'll leave behind one day? Because you're kind of the Michael Jordan of the weather
Huh,
enterprise.
I don't know
And
about that. Well, the thing is, you want to leave it better off than when you got into it. That's the main thing, and that's the goal for everybody. Is you want to leave it better off. And really, what I'm working to do is to try and rebuild a model for young people that want to do what I've been doing for all these years. The traditional Ron Burgundy, good evening, here's the news. That was great in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but this is not the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and people consume media in a different way. So we've started an entity that will hopefully be able to hire them and pay them well, and they can make a nice living for their families and a sustainable business model for this generation, where Ron Burgundy and that model is on its last legs. And I'm thankful that I got a chance to ride that horse for all these years. But this new Alabama Weather Network that we've created is going to be a statewide operation. And we're going to take care of the whole state. Television markets don't matter anymore. National Weather Service county warning areas don't matter anymore. We're going to take care of the whole state. And so that's one of the legacies that I'd like to leave behind. And yeah, I'm just getting started. I feel better now than I felt when I was 30 years old. I mean, I just back squatted 200 pounds. I'm strong as an ox. And of course, I shouldn't say that because I'll drop dead later tonight. But my goal is just to drop dead somewhere in a weather station somewhere doing this. But no, I'm very energized. I sleep 4 hours a night. I work every day from 4 a.m. to midnight. That's not an exaggeration. But I cannot wait. I cannot wait to wake up and do what I do. And that's my wish for everybody. My wish for everybody is that they love what they do. They can wake up in the morning and they cannot wait to do what they do. And there's so many young people that are just like me that love weather, have a passion for weather, and they want to do what I've done. So I guess that what I'd like to do is to leave a new business model that will be good for them. And I think we're in the process of doing that now.
okay, was your job easier in the 80s and 90s, that style of broadcasting versus today?
Well, you don't do much. I look back, I'm thinking, what in the world did I do all day? I mean,
Yeah.
I just, because really in the early days, back in like the 80s, you just do the 6 o'clock news and the 10 o'clock news. You were literally on television for 3 minutes twice a day, and that's it. And yeah, you got to, make the graphics and you got to do a little prep work, but there was no commercial internet that you used, no social media that you used. I did some commercial radio back then, and I did some school programs, but I just, what did I do? And having said that, we raised two children, and I'm so thankful that those kids were raised when I had more time. I mean, if I had to raise two children now, it would be a challenge because of the work schedule to do this, what I do every day. So it's just all worked out. And there's some negatives that come with we've got today. I mean, obviously, the social media can be a nasty place. I mean, and let me just say, you cannot hurt my feelings because I have no feelings left to hurt. You name it, I've heard it. And there's just some people that are they're drive-by haters. They hate you, they hate me, they hate everybody. And you just have to put that aside and realize that is still an amazing way of getting information out, getting information in images and video we had a snow day here back in January. In 24 hours, I had over 26,000 photos and videos. And that's not an exaggeration, 26,000 in 24 hours. And that's a sign of how powerful this stuff is. And I'm honored that they send it to me. So, yeah, I like where we are. And of course, it'll be different in 5 years and different in 10 years. Everything changes. And we just have to roll with the changes. And I like to see the kids like Max Velocity. I don't know if you've ever heard of Max and
Yeah,
what he
I
does
love
on
Max.
YouTube.
Yeah.
He just finished with his degree in meteorology. We were together up in Huntsville at the National Weather Association annual meeting. And a lot of these old guys like me, they don't like him. I love Max Velocity. I think the guy does a great job.
Oh yeah.
Ryan Hall can be controversial, but by golly, he broke into this new category of he's got a bigger audience than the Weather Channel or Fox
Hmm.
Weather, and we have to learn from them because that's how people consume media these days. And what we're trying to do here is the best of the new and the best of the old, and merge it into something really special. So I'm very pumped and very energized.
Yeah, that's great. So I'll leave it on one last thing. You mentioned raising two kids. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So you have any parting advice for a young guy like me with my kids?
Well, we raised two boys, and I think it was. Oh, do you have a girl?
Girl and boy.
Well, tell the girl to stay away from boys. That's number one. They need to learn that at a young age. But so I look back on it. I coached the baseball. I was at the PTA meeting. I was at the school, and I engineered my schedule to where I was there for them. The greatest gift you can give your child is time, and I don't have any regrets. Was it perfect? Of course not. Goodness, we all make mistakes and timing and scheduling, but I feel like I was there for them when I needed to be there for them. And I didn't have a dad. I've had to learn this on the fly. Um, but we've been married, my wife and I, we've been married for 44 years. We have a great time together. We have so much fun. Of course, the kids are grown. We're empty nesters now. But the best thing you can give them is the gift of time. That's pretty important. And that involves taking time away from the things that you love and
Mhm.
spending it on them. And after a while, that will become your love. So you got this. You got it.
Yeah, yeah, that's great advice. Well, thanks again for doing this. I really can't even tell you how much it means to me, for a real weather nerd to be able to have this discussion with you.
My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, and maybe someday I'd like to do a longer video just covering your career and stuff, all the different events that you've broadcasted through and all that. So I'll let you
All right.
know
Well,
if that comes
okay.
up.
Sounds
But
good. Well, listen,
thank you.
thanks. I got to
Yeah.
run do the production here. Tis the time.
Okay. All
Have
right.
a great
Thank you,
day.
James. You
Okay.
too.
Bye bye.